guys, today we're going to make a quick doodle sketch of a hibiscus flower using a ballpoint pen with black ink. So we started by sketching in very lightly a circle, and the hibiscus flower has 5 petals, but first we need to find where the center of this flower is going to be. And the little dot right there is the center of the circle, so the center of the flower is just below that. And the first thing I want to do is lay down the main stem of this flower here. And I lightly sketch in the shapes of the petals. I'm keeping basic shapes at first, very light sketching. You just barely need to use a little bit of pressure on the paper and it'll create these kind of lines for you. Just remember to go very light. Since this is a ballpoint pen, there is really no erasing, so whatever lines you put down are going to be there permanently. So here I'm just reshaping the petals a little bit more, trying to find a more precise shape of them, but still keeping smooth lines. Once I find these lines, I start creating the little waves on the edges of the petals. I'm just following my guidelines from before, which helps me to keep the basic shape of each petal, and I am using a photo reference as I make this sketch. So the next thing I need to do is add a little bit of detail to the stem there, and it's just made up of a bunch of small little circles right there at the end of the stem. I'm lightly sketching them in, not really worried about any shadow or detail work. Remember, the details come last, the main shapes come first. So there's a basic outline of a hibiscus flower, but we're going to continue on and shade it. So find the center lines of each petal, keeping in mind how the petal is hanging over the flower, or the curve of the petal. And I create the other remaining veins of the petals, also following the curve that they each have. And this is where you need to remember that you're actually drawing a 3-dimensional object on a 2-dimensional sheet of paper. So you have to kind of like know your angles, know your curves, and you definitely need to use a photo reference, which really helps a lot. Once you've drawn a certain thing many times over, it becomes part of your memory, so you can remember how it was drawn. But whenever you need to change the angle, it's always a good idea to find a photo reference and use that to go by. So here I'm just creating the darkest shadow areas of the petals, and I'm using very heavy pressure, but keeping in mind that I'm still using my hatching lines, so I can quickly shade everything in. So now I'm doing my hatching technique, and all hatching really is creating fast, very light strokes, and you build these up in layers. You keep your strokes very tight together, And when using a ballpoint pen, you want to use very light pressure at first. You keep your strokes very tightly together. That's how you're able to create any kind of value or shading with a pen. So using a ballpoint pen is a really fun and challenging way to do some exercises to keep your sketching and drawing skills in check, and you also want to keep training, keep practicing, because that's really the only way we can get better at our drawings, and also just become better artists in general. So if you keep a sketchbook, just sketch something in it every day. I tend to do that, especially if I have time. I'm usually doing other projects, but there's always something about going back to paper and using either a pencil, a pen, color pencil, anything I can get my hands on, where I'm able to do any kind of drawing. So here I had to rotate my my sketchbook a little bit, so I can create these hatching lines a lot easier. So I've been creating some very light shadows on the edges of the petals, and I start at the outermost edge of the petal and make my stroke going in. So here I'm creating some cross hatching by following the curve of the petal, making sure that I follow the direction of those curved guidelines that are inside the petal. And now I'm just shading in the little circles on the stem, just to define them a little bit more. And I'm adding some very light shading to the stem itself, because it has a yellowish color, but in our sketch we don't want to leave it white, because white means either there's a very strong highlight or glow. So here I'm just finishing up the some of the darkest shadow areas. Again, just building it up in layers, following the curve of the petal, filling in the gaps very carefully, again using very light strokes on the paper. It doesn't take that much for your pen lines to get really dark. So this is where you learn pressure control, and this applies directly to pencil as well. But since you can't make any mistakes, or try not to make any mistakes with pen, it does force you to get really good at shading. And that's one of the things I love to about sketching in ballpoint pen. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, thanks for watching. We have more drawing and digital art tutorials on our channel, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again.